a migrant who allegedly threatened to kill Nigel Farage has been detained after sneaking into the UK on a dinghy. Yesterday, he posted a video of himself in the middle of the Channel with a French patrol vessel following the dinghy carrying dozens of migrants. That's him on the French shore about to set off. Now, GBNews has also obtained this exclusive footage of how the Afghan was escorted by the French Navy. In the first clip here, there is a French warship around about 6 a.m. yesterday morning escorting Madapas's dinghy to the midpoint of the English Channel, where that warship with Madapasa aboard waits. And in the second video right now, you can see here comes Border Force Hurricane from Britain meeting that warship, picking up Madapasa. Bear in mind, allegedly issued a death threat against Nigel Farage. And there you go, look, taxied back into Dover, Bosch, landing on our shores, having issued allegedly a death threat to the leader of a political party, simply brought back ashore. Now, in a statement, the Metropolitan Police said this: "We received a report of malicious communications and threats to kill towards an MP in relation to a video posted on social media. Detectives have been investigating and inquiries remain ongoing." Well, joining me now to discuss this down the line is the human rights lawyer, Dr. Shoaib Khan. Welcome to the show, Shoaib. Always a pleasure. So we talked about this case a few weeks ago, and you said it was the right thing to do to get this gentleman into Britain and to deal with him here. We obviously can't go into the intricacies of this case. It's an open case. But in principle, my point to you is quite simple. If somebody issues threats against parliamentarians in Britain, and they are from a country such as Afghanistan, or it could be Iraq, could be Syria, irrespective of the fact that we don't have a returns agreement with them, they should immediately and simply be deported.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, I think even then, my stance, I mean, it's not, something specific to this case or any personal views on this case. The whole point is, I mean, I believe in the rule of law, and I think everyone has a right to fair trial, everyone has a right to fair hearing. Yes, I mean, even now when you were just introducing this piece, you yourself said, even though we've all seen the video, but you said, allegedly using the legal threats. And so, of course, that's what our law is. That's what we are bound by law to say. And that's the whole point. So if he is in this country, then rightly as the police, and as we understood yesterday, he was arrested by the police, not just under immigration, but also possibly criminal powers. And that is what this relates to, those alleged threats. So, of course, I think it's the right thing to let the law take its course. Let's see where our legal process takes us. But I don't think that's necessarily grounds for him to be permanently banned or excluded from the UK just because we've seen that, whatever, 30-second or 60-second video.
Well, let me put this to you. In liberal, tolerant, open borders, member of the European Union, member of the European Court of Human Rights, Schengen Zone member, Germany, they've just decided, because they've had so many terrorist attacks on their soil, they've decided that they are going to send Afghans back to the Taliban. They're in the ECHR, they're in the EU. We could do the same, and we should do the same, surely.
I mean, it depends on what the assessment they made and what assessment we make. So, I mean, I think from what you just said, if the only the only basis on which they did was that we've had lots of terror attacks and let's send our Afghans back, I don't agree with that. If what they did was assess each individual case and then determine whether each person might be or might not be at risk in Taliban-ruled Afghanistan, then yes. I mean, that's the thing. Obviously, we've had sort of a moratorium or a ban on deportations, forced removals to Afghanistan for almost 2 years, more than 2 years now. So if at some point the government thinks, okay, we need to review that, then yes, as long as a proper process is undertaken and we decide firstly, the country as a whole, is it now a safe country to be sending people to? I mean, and obviously I do have serious doubts considering, the news that's been coming out about how the Taliban are treating people. So I'm not sure it is a safe country, but fine. I mean, if there's going to be a proper, neutral, unbiased, independent assessment undertaken, and then for each case we assess, okay, I mean, obviously a woman, a child would be in more danger, there are other characteristics someone might have which would render them in more danger as well. So as long as we assess each independent case individually, I don't have a problem with that in principle.
OK, let's just be clear that it's allegations of Madhupassa making these threats. This is now an active case. We don't want to go into that one anymore. Let's move on to two other cases, though, that you and I have talked about before. And that was an Indian-born paedophile who has won the right to remain in the United Kingdom because he has a right to a family life with his children. There's a Syrian bank robber who's won the right to remain in Britain because of his right under human rights laws to a family life. It's a simple case, is it not, Dr. Khan? The human rights law no longer protects the human rights of British citizens. It protects the rights, ostensibly, of foreign criminals.
I mean, it protects everyone's rights, and that's the point. I mean, most of those cases, they never make the news, do they? I mean, just today, I think we saw, there's going to be human rights challenge brought against the VAT that's being imposed on private schools. That's a human rights case. I don't know who's going to win, but
it's hardly a terrorist from Syria.
Exactly, that's my point. But what you said was, why are British people or non-criminals not protected? And that's the point, they are. But those cases don't, hundreds and thousands, we have legal human rights cases going through the courts. They never come to the media, and rightly so. But it's just when occasionally, we have one Syrian, one Indian, someone with a criminal record, and then suddenly
because they represent. But that's like saying, occasionally we only have one Indian-born paedophile. Oh, occasionally we only have one Syrian terrorist. We don't want any of those people in the country. Surely, if they're born abroad, if they abuse the human rights of our citizens, particularly children, they should be booted out.
No, but that's the thing. I'm just replying to your point, and the point that's often and always made, that why don't human rights laws protect our human rights or the human rights of British people? They do. I mean, of course they do, and that's the point. We all live proper lives. We're all living. We have freedom of expression. The other freedoms we have, occasionally when they curtail, we go to court and we fight the cases there. But the point is, they do protect everyone's rights. And the case you're talking about, like I said last time, obviously we don't know anything other than what we've heard in the media about these cases. But maybe those children, that pedophiles' children, the children whose human rights and whose best interests would not be served by him being removed, maybe they're British children as well. So why are we not talking about them? So, we don't know how old they are. Fine, their husband.
Who cares? Who cares how old they are? He's a paedophile who was born abroad. Why do his children have a right to a family life, to have human rights, when he's a paedophile who's abused British children? Who cares about his kids? He might have thought about that at the moment he chose to become a paedophile, surely.
But you just said, why do human rights laws not protect British peoples? And they might be British people, is my point. Are you saying that those British children should lose their human rights because of the criminal record of their dad?
I'm saying the father should lose his human rights because he's a paedophile. It's cut and dried.
How do the children ever see the father again? Why are we saying they should lose their father forever as well?
Well, how about he chose to not be a paedophile? Then he might not have got deported. He made a terrible life choice.
Now that we are in this situation, he did what he did. He's being punished. Now, what's your solution? Separate from him from his children forever. The children lose their father forever. I just don't agree with that.
Tough.
Yeah, but that's the point. I mean, I think if they're children, they shouldn't be punished for their father's crimes. That's not what we do in a civilized society.
OK, civilized society seems to protect the human rights of paedophiles and bank robbers. Thank you very much for joining us. Always a pleasure, Dr. Shoaib Khan, to have you on the show.